Now to that breaking news out of Georgia. Former President Donald Trump could be facing a fourth indictment by the end of next week. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis will begin presenting her 2020 election interference case to the grand jury on Monday. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution reporting just a few hours ago that the timeline came into focus when former Georgia Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan and independent journalist George Chidi separately confirmed that they were notified they will testify on Tuesday. I'm joined now by one of the reporters who broke that story, Tamar Hallerman, a senior reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And MSNBC legal analyst Charles Coleman is here. He's a former prosecutor and civil rights attorney. Okay, Tamar, this is your reporting. Tell us a bit more about what we can expect to happen next week.
Well, beginning on Monday, we're expecting prosecutors will begin their long-awaited presentation to a grand jury here in Fulton County. This is, of course, the investigation that was launched when Trump called Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, telling him to find nearly 12,000 votes. But since then, that investigation has expanded to include things like the appointment of alternate GOP electors, the harassment of two Fulton County poll workers, and many more things. We're expecting multiple witnesses to be called and potentially for indictments to be handed up on Tuesday.
Okay, Charles, now racketeering charges have been floated in conversation, particularly about this case. Can you just explain how that might work in Georgia? Understanding we don't know what Fani Willis is going to do until the grand jury returns their stuff.
Well, Simone, one of the things that makes a racketeering charge such a unique tool for law enforcement is that it doesn't require everyone who is involved to do the same exact thing. Basically, if you can establish that people were working together to move forward an overall conspiracy, that is enough to charge everyone together collectively and individually. And so it is a tool that Fani Willis, as the Fulton County DA, has used on repeated occurrences. Most recently, you may remember with respect to Young Thug, YSL, and that record label, that was a tool that she used, that she has continued to use throughout her time as the Fulton County DA to deal with larger, more expansive cases. And so I expect that with this case regarding the issue of election fraud and the former president, it is likely that she is going to use that to create a very expansive web and tell a very elaborate story and also ultimately charge a number of different individuals.
Donald Trump, in true fashion, has not shied away from attacking Fani Willis. Today, he posted on his social media site that she was racist. For anyone that is not watching television and listening, Fani Willis is black, in case you do not know. He also has this television ad running in the Atlanta market area that is in the Atlanta market, and it just makes several wildly untrue, I would argue, sexist claims about Fani Willis. Willis told her staff to ignore the noise and keep doing their jobs. Tamar, these attacks are going to continue. How is Willis's team factoring this into what is going to be a long couple of weeks ahead of them?
I think the DA has made clear that she sees this as par for the course. The former president has insulted her at many points over the last 2 years, really, since she launched this investigation. So she's made clear she's trying to tune all of it out. But of course, these attacks are escalating, and this ad that you mentioned, Simone, makes some pretty insane claims against her, including that she had an affair with a former client, and there's no evidence. I looked into this claim. There's no evidence that seems to be true.
It's really wild, and I would just say I don't believe they would be saying this about Donald Trump would be saying this about a man. I want to turn to a different election interference investigation, and I want to get y'all's expertise and weigh in on that. Jack Smith's federal probe into Donald Trump, okay? Judge Chutkan, who is the judge in this case, she issued a narrow protective order that covered sensitive materials in the case, but the protective order will allow the former president to review those materials without counsel present. However, the judge issued a stern warning to Trump and his attorney saying, quote, "I caution you and your client to take special care about your public statements about this case. I will take whatever measures are necessary to safeguard the integrity of these proceedings." Charles, Judge Chutkan seems quite serious. What are some of these measures that the judge is alluding to here?
Well, Simone, there are a number of things that Judge Chutkan could do to ultimately find Donald Trump in contempt, up to and including putting him in jail for disobeying her orders. But I think the most important thing that is going to likely move the needle here, where other judges have been unsuccessful thus far in curtailing some of Donald Trump's behavior, is the threat to move up the trial date. As we all know, the number one rule for Donald Trump's defense team is delay, delay, delay. And so anything that threatens that tactic when you don't have a strong case legally is ultimately going to threaten Donald Trump's freedom. And that's going to be the thing that could potentially keep him from continuing to push the boundaries in the ways that he has. So the notion that in order to preserve the integrity of the overall trial and prosecution, that she would consider moving up the trial date if Donald Trump continues to put the integrity of the trial in jeopardy with his antics is something that I do think could potentially resonate, not just with his defense team, but also with Donald Trump, the defendant himself.
Okay, lastly, in some of the crazy new legal news this week, Attorney General Merrick Garland made a surprise announcement in the Hunter Biden investigation. He is appointing David Weiss as a special counsel. Now, David Weiss has been overseeing the Hunter Biden probe since 2019. He is an appointee from the Trump administration. What I found so striking in this announcement, Charles, is that the Attorney General did not give a deep explanation about why this was necessary. And I think in a climate like this, a lack of explanation gives space for misinformation and disinformation to fester.
Sure, there's a lot of speculation as to why they would make this decision, and particularly why now. You're talking about the same state attorney who essentially was investigating Hunter Biden for the last 5 years. So now why imbue him with the power of special counsel? It is clear that that designation gives him the authority to now extend his investigation beyond the jurisdiction of Delaware into other jurisdictions, which may be important for wherever the fact-finding is taking him as a prosecutor. But most people are going to say that this is likely Merrick Garland playing politics in the sense that he wants to appear as impartial as possible, because you're talking about a U.S. attorney who was appointed by Donald Trump, who has previously been investigating Hunter Biden, who you have now given more power to investigate the son of the current sitting president. And so I can't see how people are not going to make this somewhat about politics and just going overboard to prove how impartial the Department of Justice truly actually is.
I have thoughts, but I'm out of time. Charles Coleman, Tamar Hallerman, thank you both very, very much. Okay, I've got a riddle for you.